This is the magic question that I think if the salesperson has to answer with a thumbs up for you to feel like it's been a good use of their time is, did I come away from this session feeling leveled up? Leveled up can mean lots of different things, of course, right? It could be a confidence thing. It could be a skill set thing. It could be a figured out a new way of doing things. It could be a getting closer to my goal type of thing. But did they come away from it feeling leveled up? If they don't feel like they were leveled up from that interaction, what you did either wasn't coaching or wasn't good coaching.
You're listening to the Sales Today podcast, and I'm your host, Fred Copestake. On this podcast, we explore how sales professionals can develop a modern approach to winning business, the application of virtual selling techniques, how to create meaningful business relationships, and much more. Why not take our free collaborative selling scorecard to see how your sales approach suits today's environment? You'll find a link in the show notes. And welcome to this episode of the Sales Today podcast, where I'm delighted to be joined by Richard Smith. Richard is head of growth at My Sales Coach. So, Richard, first up, welcome.
Thanks, Fred. Exciting to do this. Just over 2 weeks into the new role, so good to be getting the good news and good voice about coaching out there. So,
Well, yeah, and that's the point, isn't it? That, we're both passionate about coaching. I'm always a bit wary of the passionate word. It sounds a bit lame sometimes, but we both care about it a lot because we know the significance it makes. And that's why you've gone to My Sales Coach. So explain briefly what My Sales Coach is, just to give a bit of context, and then I'm going to hit you with a juicy question.
Yeah, sure. So My Sales Coach, in a nutshell, Fred, is a subscription service for individuals and companies whereby we look to help companies move the needle on their sales performance, improve sales skills, behaviors, mentality, both in individual contributors, but also sales leaders, by matching individuals up to their very best fit sales coach, where we work with a growing but very carefully selected bank of top class sales coaches. And that is it in a nutshell. We provide other add-ons and nuts and bolts on top of that, but the core, it's about getting people matched up and access to their very best fit sales coach, which might be more than one person, by the way, to help them move the needle. Because we acknowledge and we've experienced in our own careers that the thing which can truly move the needle on sales performance is by giving people the one-to-one development and coaching that they need.
And I know you have some excellent coaches on the cadre.
Absolutely.
Somehow I snuck in on that. I'm not sure if it's good on that day. No, I mean, there's some really good guys. A real mix of people to get the right person for the right job. And, it does move the needle. I mean, again, briefly, because I want to get into something else for the majority of this podcast, but briefly, why does it move the needle? Why is coaching so effective?
Okay, here we go with the first sort of analogy drop of the day. I remember as someone who's always, let's just say, had trouble keeping his weight in check. I remember a few years ago, I took the step of spending a fair amount of money on hiring a personal trainer after trying the gym and all these things and failing miserably. Pretty incredible. I lost more weight than I've ever lost in my life. Why was it so successful when everything I tried before that wasn't successful? It was one-to-one time, wasn't me. Stood in a gym with 100 of other people, or in a class. Was someone that was completely understood my goals, understood what was holding me back, understood what I was trying to work towards, understood me as a individual, understood my body, understood what my bad habits were, and kept me accountable as well, which is the key piece. It wasn't easy for me to not show up to a one-to-one personal training session as easy as it was for me to skip the gym, put it that way. And really, if people relate to that, sales coaching it's not really much different as far as like why it's so impactful. It is that one-to-one time. It's someone who deeply understands what are the specific things that's holding you back from being successful, and those things can change week to week, month to month. It's helping you get rid of the head trash that has maybe held you back from making changes before. It's someone who is who will hold you accountable to, and make sure that you stick to what you say you're going to stick to. I've experienced it myself. I've coached sellers in my career when I saw the benefits that it had given me. And I've literally had people, and this isn't me big, I'm not saying it's to big myself up. Okay, maybe a little bit. It is people saying, your coaching has literally changed my life. And I don't think there's anything more powerful, more rewarding personally than hearing someone say that type of thing to you. So hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, it does. And I like the PT analogy.
Mm,
You're a smart guy. You could look at YouTube videos, you could read articles, you could understand what you need to do in the gym to make a
right.
difference. But as it sounds like you didn't, because
Yep.
you weren't doing it. You just needed that extra piece of that personal bit to take it, contextualize it, and then make it work for you. And
Yeah.
that's where you really start to reap the rewards. Yeah.
100%. I think that's a perfect way of doing it. And by the way, that is not me putting down those things, the education, the training, the theory that's out there, because actually you need that. People need that. People need to learn about something and understand it, quite frankly, before they try and apply it effectively. It is that key piece that, okay, how did you try and apply it? How did it work out? Why didn't it work out? What actually went really well that you want to keep on doing more of? That's the missing piece. That's the bit where coaching really comes in.
Yeah. Oh, no. I mean, look, I'm a trainer. I'm a
Mm,
trainer and a coach. And yeah, training is a part of it. And we have to share information. But,
yep.
I'm always saying it's implementation above information. So the training has got to be designed around taking it away and using it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, if you've got coaching, so it's getting hyper personalized. So that particular idea, that thing that you want to do, you're getting your head around it and getting the blockages away and working out what that plan to actually go and do it is. That's where you're going to get results. That's
Yeah.
why it's going to work, isn't it?
It is. And I think just again, doubling down on that point, and you will have experienced this lots in your career, Fred, is I, I've had people that have approached me and said, Rich, I want you to come in and deliver a workshop to my sales team on prospecting. People that I, out the blue on LinkedIn, people I don't know and kind of ask them, well, what's the problem that you're trying to solve? And they say, we've got a big pipeline problem. We're not generating the pipeline we need to be successful. And I asked the question, said, so what do you think me showing up for 2 or 3 hours, standing in front of a room is going to meaningfully change on with that? And I think deep down, people know that isn't really the answer. It is a feeling of like, hey, the little shot in the arm that makes us feel good for a few hours after the workshop, but people go back to the day jobs the next week. They live in hope that people make a change, that they apply these things, but deep down, they probably know it was a waste of time. So, I think it's the two things have to go hand in hand. People need to be trained, they need to understand, they need to get the theory, but until it's actually reinforced, coached, made personal for the individual, by and large, it's going to be a big ask for you to see meaningful change.
Yeah. Okay, so coaching works. Well, we could go on and get
Mm,
depth about that. And if people actually want to listen to other podcasts I've done around that, I know you won't mind me calling these out now because they're with your colleagues. So Mark Akers, Kevin Beals, we talk about this stuff. But the thing I really wanted to kick around today was based on something you were posting on LinkedIn the other day is, if it works and we know it works, why are sales managers not doing it? Because, well, why are sales managers not doing it? I'll hold my opinion back for a moment. If I can.
and it's such a massive question. And I know that we've only got so long on this pod, Fred, before people tune out and get busy with other things. And if I maybe say I'm going to be self-critical here of myself, right? Because I think this was my ultimate trigger for like I need to get on board with this company is if you probably like did an analysis of every sales leader on this planet, I'm probably somewhere in the top 5% of people who really believe in the power of coaching, but not just that. I actually did it. The top 5%, you possibly could even go more tighter than that, maybe even top 2%. I didn't survey every sales leader, so this is just my well-informed guess and judgment. Um, and yet, as someone who believed in the power, who did it regularly with my team, I knew that deep down, A, I still wasn't doing it as much as I could and should. And B, on some things, I possibly wasn't the best person to be coaching them on. Like, you know, yeah, I'm getting to be a bit of an old codger, but I'm not that old. I'm only 36, right? I've been in sales, 15 years. It's not like I've been in sales for 40 years, right? There's still lots of stuff that I do not know about sales and selling certain companies, certain size deals, and certain different types of personas in my career. Like, I've only sold to a large part of my career. I've been selling to sales teams, right? Very different to if I was selling to, I don't know, CFOs or IT people, right? Not that I'd want to sell to IT people, but there you go. Anyway, my point is that as someone who was so passionate about it, who believed in it, who did it, probably in the top 2% in the world, I still felt the same pressures that most sales leaders face of like, A, it's just not enough time in the day, and B, am I actually the best person to be coaching this person on this thing to develop this skill? So if that's me in the top 2%, well, look beyond that to the masses. And the problem is much, much bigger, as in there's people who don't believe in coaching because they've never actually experienced it themselves, right? Which is a big thing that probably doesn't get talked about. They were never coached or they didn't get effectively coached. So how could they truly believe in the power of it if they've not experienced it themselves? And B, they aren't coaching at all, right? They're busy with other things. Coaching is one of the last things that they would ever think about doing, or what they think they're doing when it comes to coaching is not actually how their sales reps are receiving as coaching. So we can dive into more of the specifics around that. But I just thought I would kind of be a bit like self-deprecating, and I'd want to be and almost kind of reveal some of my own truths on this podcast. And because I think that's important to contextualize how big the problem is.
No, look, I really appreciate you doing that. Show that vulnerability and using yourself as the person or an example of the person we can speak about. Because then we're not going to be accused of just chucking stones at people and being
Right.
perfect and, probably idealistic and everything else. But yeah, it's very interesting. So yeah, I suppose there's a bit chicken and egg. So I'm not the best person, so I'm not going to do it. But then if you've never seen the effect, I mean, I think that's probably going to be the core, isn't it? Never seen the effect. No one's ever even told me. If you've never been coached and you've never been in any management training, which talks about the fact that coaching is where you're going to get biggest bang for your bucks, yeah, I guess that's why you're probably not going to connect the dots to go, I should be doing that.
Yeah.
I suppose then you could say, well, yeah, go watch your football team on a Saturday and they lose 10-0. And then they say, well, actually, we couldn't be bothered doing the coaching this week. You'd go ballistic, wouldn't you? Oh,
100%.
hang on a minute. Connection. Yeah, maybe we should try to make stuff easier for people to understand like that rather than getting on theoretical hobby horses and all that sort of stuff. I don't know.
I think, but like coaching is not an easy thing to do. Not everybody is just magically born with these skills. Like people aren't born with selling skills, contrary to popular belief. And it's something that people have to learn. And actually, some people just aren't right to be coaches, right? It's just not in how they're built and how they think about things. But actually, like one thing that I feel like also needs to be called out is that coaching is often, I think when people think about what coaching is, it's often thought about as this big event, right? I'm gonna have to block out 3 days of my calendar to coach. But actually, one thing I learned is that coaching can happen in the moment. You could if you're a sales leader, listen to this, and you're thinking, well, how do I even get started doing this? Right? Is think about the next time that your salesperson says something like, super excited about this deal, really excited about it, great call. Think it's going to close this quarter. Rather than take your normal approach of, sounds brilliant, great, let me know how I can help, right? rather than say that, which is probably what you say most times than not, stop and ask yourself, just ask the question. Tell me more about that. Why do you, what makes you feel so good about it? What risks do you think exist for this deal not coming in? You can ask 3 questions in the moment, 5 minutes, and that person might come away from that conversation, the seller thinking, didn't think about it that way before. Believe it or not, but you've been coaching your rep with 3 questions. Not being a cheerleader, you've asked them 3 questions and you've coached them and it's taken 5 minutes, probably taken 5 minutes out of your day, and you've offered more impact to that sales rep than probably you have in the last month. And so I think that's just, I'm just sharing that as like, how do I get started? Like, does this have to be a big thing? It doesn't have to be a big thing. But yeah, that's me off on a tangent a little bit.
No, no, but we want tips. We want practical
Yeah,
stuff that if people are listening, because again, we can
yeah,
get all philosophical on this and whatever, but yeah, no, tell me more. But mate, when I hear that, it's Ted. It's tell me more, explain to me, describe.
yeah,
Those 3 just go together in my
yeah,
book, and you can use any of those. Oh, you could literally use those 3. Well, tell me more about that. Well, explain in a bit more detail what you were saying there.
yeah.
Okay, so describe what you're going to do as a result. I mean, jobs are good. Yeah.
100% Fred. And I think that's just like important for people to, some people don't even know what coaching is, right? And like that in itself, what you described, helping someone figure it out, stop and think of doing it a different way than they would have done before to get a better result is coaching. But I want to maybe reverse back to the question of like, why aren't managers coaching? You know, I just think that so many sales leaders, they, I come back to this thing is like, they think they're coaching, but they're not. And we've done like, I've done research and surveys into this where actually a lot of sales leaders will tell the world that they are investing time on a regular basis coaching their salespeople. But if you ask their salespeople the same question of how often you're getting coached, half of all salespeople will say that they rarely or never get coached. So there's this massive big um there's a complete contrast between what sales leaders are saying that they're doing and what their salespeople are saying. Now, why is that? Because sales leaders are responding to that survey because it makes them feel better by saying, "Yeah, I'm doing it," when deep down they're like, "I'm not." Um, Possibly a little bit for that. A lot of that's probably at play a bit. But actually, I think the bigger issue is that they think that what they're doing is coaching, but it's not coaching. In other words, the salesperson is not coming away from that interaction feeling, and this is the magic question that I think if the salesperson has to answer with a thumbs up for you to feel like you've it's been a good use of their time is, did I come away from this session feeling leveled up? Leveled up can mean lots of different things, of course, right? It could be a confidence thing, it could be a skill set thing, it could be a figured out a new way of doing things, it could be a getting closer to my goal type of thing. But did they come away from it feeling leveled up? If they don't feel like they were leveled up from that interaction, what you did either wasn't coaching or wasn't good coaching, certainly wasn't a good use of the salesperson's time. And you know when you're doing it, you're a good use of your salesperson's time when they come back and they ask for more. Love that. Can we do that again? Can I have more than that? When's the next time we can have this a similar type of conversation? That's when you know it's you're making an impact. So I'd like all sales leaders who are listening to this to ask themselves the question, in my one-to-ones with my reps, are my salespeople coming away from those feeling leveled up? And by the way, you can ask your salesperson that question directly, like, how useful was this conversation? They might give you a false answer, but at the very least, start asking the question because it's not about you, it's about them.
I love that. I love that feeling leveled up because it is broad enough for someone to say yes. And you might think, well, but we didn't talk about any accounts. We didn't talk about any ways you're going to win new business. We didn't talk about how you're going to submit that proposal to that big thing that I know you've got in your pipeline.
Right.
But that's not the point. The person is going, this is awesome. I'm going to go and write 4 of those now because I am
Yeah.
absolutely on it. I'm raring to go. And that's the level up, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not to say the tactical piece, the actual progressing a sales piece. It could be something completely different. That's where the difference has been made for that person at that time.
Just to double down on your point there that you made, Fred, is the things that you reeled off there. Are they going to send that proposal? Are they going to do that thing? Like all those things, if you peel it back, are actually heavily like sales leader centric.
Yeah.
it's kind of benefiting them. Are they going to do that thing that I'm expecting them to do? When actually the leveling up is about the person being coached, the coachee, if you like. That's about their best interests.
Yeah. Which is kind of ironic because we also talk about salespeople being too self-centered and think about stuff which is good for them rather for the customer. So it's just like another kind
Yeah,
of
yeah.
way down that. I mean, a good sales manager will be using good sales skills, as in asking questions, shifting the focus back
Oh,
onto the
yeah.
customer, which is the salesperson, and what is right for them at this time. Let's say that's why I very deliberately picked those tactical pieces. And the last one was that's the mindset piece. That's the bit that individual required there and then. So
Well, it's so funny that you raised this about like this correlation between good coaching and good selling skills. Actually, I think if you looked at a lot of sales leaders, the reality is they don't have a lot of good selling skills. They they've never been taught or coached how to ask great questions, how to understand their buyers. They've like that's the sad reality. So if they've never been taught how to if they're not never taught how to have great selling skills and selling behaviors, then they're naturally going to find coaching conversations more challenging, right? They'll be in the mode of telling the person what to do and what to say because hey, this is what I did when I was doing the job.
and that's changed anyway.
Yeah,
We look at the rate of change of sales, and it's
100%.
interesting one. I mean, there's a whole other discussion here about training salespeople in coaching, which I think
Mm,
should. Two reasons. One, better coachee. Two, you use those skills with your customer because that's essentially what good
yeah,
selling is now looking like. So last
yeah.
another decided to we'll keep that one for another day. Okay, look, I did want this to be beating sales leaders up. I don't think we have. Hopefully, we've come at it
Mm,
sensitively now. You've already given one piece of advice there about just rather than, oh yeah, well done, come on, rah rah rah. It's like, ah, well, tell me more about what you're going to do.
mm.
Explain to me. Describe. What other, I'm going to use the word quick fixes or things can people do just to start using some of those skills and some of those
Yeah,
techniques, which are essentially coaching? And yes, you will be coaching. You might not even
yeah,
realize it is, but it is because it'll be making a difference. What
yeah.
stuff can we do?
I mean, stuff that I've done in my career, which again, is just I'm sharing my own experiences here. I'm not saying that this is the only way to do this. How many sales leaders invest time on a weekly basis listening to how their salespeople sell? Right? It's I still vehemently believe, as someone who you know lived and breathed this for a number of years when we built Refract, that I was like, the easiest way to coach a salesperson, right, is to observe how they're selling, right? Is that because otherwise coaching is actually really hard, especially if you're coaching on selling skills or approaches, it's really hard to do because you don't get to see. I can't kind of move you in the right direction if I can't see how you're doing it. I'm kind of relying on you to tell me that stuff, and you're probably going to give me a little bit of a misguided view of what you're weak at, or most people don't know what they're weak at. They have the blind spots. So listen to a sales call of your rep per week. And then once you've listened to it, identify 3 or 4 key points in that call that you want to go through. You'll probably find there's about 20. Don't choose 20. Choose 3 or 4. It's too much, right? Choose 3 or 4 in. And it could be as little as, right, I'm just going to focus on the first 5 minutes of the call here. Next week, we might do the second 5. But for this, I'm going to do the first 5. And what we're going to do is I'm going to sit down with a rep. I'm going to make it feel like a super safe environment. And so I'm going to tell them that, hey, by the way, the objective of us doing this, the only objective of us doing this is to hopefully help you be more successful and for you to come out of this with some great ideas of things that's going to help you maybe increase the chances of closing this deal or chances of increasing chances of increasing future deals like this. And simply get the salesperson to stop the tape at the points that they want to share something. Could be something that they thought they did well, something that they felt didn't go as planned, and ask them, what made you do that? What made you stop the tape then? What made you say that? What What do you think would have happened if you'd said X instead? Hey, one approach that I've seen works really well is asking the question this way. How do you think that would have went down in this situation? Again, most sales leaders, my hunch is they're probably not doing that on a weekly basis. But imagine if you did that once per week per rep. Imagine the rate of improvement that you'd see by just doing that simple exercise, which might take a commitment of time of 30 minutes per rep. Let's just say that. And by the way, one thing I realized is that you can take that individual call with that salesperson, you can broadcast that out to the wider team. Hey, this is Fred's call, but it doesn't really matter that it's Fred. We're all speaking with the same types of prospects. We're all selling the same product. I want everybody to share how they would have dealt with the same situation, what they would have done if they were in this call. And you can start to kind of coach on a more group level, if you like. So there's just things that I just feel like I've seen has been integral to how the teams that I've worked with is that it becomes so much easier to accelerate the rate of improvement of an individual when you actually spend time observing how they're selling in action. Yeah.
I mean, in an elite sport, it's video day on a Monday, isn't it?
Yeah.
Assuming you've played at the weekend, it's you come in and it's a tough day,
Yeah.
to do physical stuff. Although we're looking at the videos. Right. Well, there'll be stuff that's gone well. And hey, let's not forget the fact that highlight stuff, catch people doing things right. But then also like, why are we doing this? What could we do better, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, that makes a load of sense. But then again, let's just tackle this one where, so it's half an hour per rep and you're going,
Mm.
yeah, but I've got 10 people. That's 5 hours now.
Yeah.
What's your response to that? You expect me to put 5 hours aside, Richard?
Hard, right? 5 hours. But then when you look at it, it feels like a long time. The working day, if you're a 9 to 5, is 8 hours. So you're saying, right, for the sake of argument, let's just say it's half of one day, right? But let's cut some slack and say, okay, a full day of your 5 days a week work and going to dedicate just to doing that one activity. What are you doing with the other 4 days? And this is the question, the uncomfortable question. And I again will say that for me personally, I feel like I battled with this sometimes, but I always found a way to do something each week, even though I felt like I could still do more. But actually, when you peel it back, Fred, where am I going to find the time? 5 hours, where am I going to find that time? Say, okay, like it's half a day, but let's just call it a day out of 5, 20% of your working week. What are you doing with the other 80%? Where's that going? What's that on? And, you get some legitimate answers back. Lots of internal meetings. I'm getting asked for reporting. I'm busy hiring. Not that many sales leaders are hiring right now. I'll just say that. And there's some legitimate reasons in there and a lot of stupid stuff that we're asking sales managers and sales leaders to do, which, if we're honest, isn't really moving the needle, isn't actually helping them get close to or drive more revenue, which is ultimately what people want them to do. And actually, I think if you look at it, a lot of them don't know where their time goes. Like a lot of salespeople don't know where their time goes. They clock on at 8:45, suddenly 5 o'clock, and they're like, don't know really what I did with my day there. It's not because they're lazy, by the way. It's just because they don't have a handle on it. So yeah, that's I guess the uncomfortable question to ask is if 5 hours feels like a long time, then where's the other 30 hours in your week going?
Yeah, which is a kind of slightly different angle on the answer I would give, which is, well, what are you doing with that 5 hours instead of using that time to make your people better to achieve your results?
Yeah.
Which is essentially what a manager's job is it not? It's to get results through people. That's what I learned.
Yeah.
Back in the good old days, bad old days, whatever old days. But yeah, that's what manager's job is. It's to drive results through people, through your team. That's why they're there. And if your answer is I'm selling, well, it's like, well, then you're a salesperson, then you're not a manager.
Yep.
Harsh or fair?
And by the way, and I've experienced this, some sales managers are being asked to carry a bag, right? It's not their fault. That's just that's what their business expectation is. But that is why I don't want to slam this at sales leaders. I want to also target this at the CEOs that are listening to this and saying, okay, why did you put this person in a managerial position if you aren't going to enable them to invest at least a significant chunk of their time in their people to get them results? Why do you have this person in a sales manager role?
That's another podcast. We've lined up
Yeah.
two now. But no, so I think, so the practical advice, let's just try and take it into something people can use. It's to appreciate the impact this can have and to kind of put that in the diary and block it out in a different color. I don't know,
Yeah.
red's an big impressive thing.
Danger.
Gold. No, it's always gold type, gold, that is what I will invest. Nothing can move me on that. I don't care who you are not. If you are the CEO, you asked me to get results through people, and that's what I'm doing here. So I'm not even going to come and speak to you.
Yeah.
That is what's going to happen at this time on these days, and everyone knows it. You try and shift me off that, it ain't going to happen. Look, maybe that's a bit idealistic, but ultimately, if I keep moving all those and we don't hit results, you aren't going to say to me, "Oh, well, yeah, but at least you came to these meetings and filled in these spreadsheets and did all that thing." It's like, no, your team didn't deliver, so you're gone. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
but bang, gold time. Am I being idealistic, or you are doing this job? You have done this job. You are doing this job. Is that something that you can say? No, you absolutely can do that and should do that.
So I guess I'll come back to, I think there's a lot of sales managers out there that can be doing a lot better than what they're doing right now, which I hate to say it is close to the square root of zero. So there's something they can do that is different to what they're doing now, which is not a lot. Or coming back to their salespeople are saying, I don't get coached or rarely ever get coached. But there is still this universal problem that even the people who are investing time, effort, resources, helping, supporting, coaching their team today, people can still get more. People can still be accelerated. It's the reason why I joined my sales coach is because I saw through my very own eyes as someone who really drank the coaching Kool-Aid, knew that people could get more. And if they get more of something that's good for them, they're going to get better even quicker. And which company doesn't want that? Which company doesn't want quicker results, better results in a shorter time period?
Yeah, that'd be a fairly logical vote, that one, wouldn't it? No, absolutely can, and that's why I love this. I love what my sales coach does. So, how can people get in touch with you then? How can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, well, you can probably LinkedIn. I'm fairly proactive and vocal on there.
Fairly, mate.
Yeah,
Very.
don't wear many orange hats, but I'll leave that for other people to wear. But I'll give Fred my sales coach zip up top when he gives me one of his orange hats. I'll say that we'll do an exchange.
We just need to check Pantone.
Yeah. So yeah, you can find me there. Richard Smith, my sales coach. Definitely type in my sales coach because there's a lot of Richard Smiths out there. It's a very common name. But yeah, that's the best way to find me. If you're interested in other things that I've done, I've co-authored a book that went on to sell quite a number of copies, which we're very proud of. Problem prospecting. If you're looking at ways that you can sharpen up your prospecting skills as a salesperson or for your sales team. And if you want to find out more about my sales coach, go to our website, mysalescoach.com. If this has made you emotional enough about your situation that you think, hey, maybe external sales coaching support could be something that would benefit my team.
We will drop links into the show notes for each of those so that people don't have to go searching around. They can click straight on through.
Brilliant.
So, awesome. Thank you so much, Richard. Really appreciate you coming along and talking about this, sharing about it. And so hopefully we've done it sensitively enough, not to be just chucking rocks at people, but helping people understand why. I really do appreciate it, mate.
Yeah, loved it. Look forward to the Christmas special.
Gonna do it now. Gonna do it.
Cheers, Fred.
Thank you for listening to the Sales Today podcast with me, your host, Fred Copestake. I hope you've enjoyed what you heard today. If you did, please get in touch and hit subscribe. And remember, you can take the collaborative selling scorecard for free to check out how your sales approach works in today's environment. You'll find it in the show notes.